Hello students, today we're going to look at place value relationships, how we compare numbers depending on the place value that they're in. So if you're comparing numbers, the best place to start is with a place value chart. I've already written in here a lot of different numbers to help explain how they compare to each other. Let's focus on the top three. This is 9 ones, 9 tens, and 9 hundreds. 9 hundreds is equal to 900, 9 tens is equal to 90, and 9 ones is just 9 wholes. Now if I wanted to compare this 9 and this 9, I know that because each place value is 10 times greater than the one on the right, I would multiply it by 10. Same thing, if I wanted to go from this 9 to this 9, I would multiply by 10 to go from a 9 in the tens place to a 9 in the hundreds place. But if I wanted to go 2 place values over, that's the same as 10 times 10. In other words, the 9 in the hundreds place is 100 times bigger than the 9 in the ones place. And that makes sense because 9 times 100 is 900. The same thing works if we're going backwards too. So here we have a 9 in the millions place and a 9 in the 100,000s place. If I was to go backwards, it's not going to be 9 times bigger. It's not going to be 10 times bigger because I'm getting into a smaller number. It's actually going to be 10 times smaller or divided by 10. Same thing, the 9 in the 10,000s place is going to be 10 times smaller than the 9 in the 100,000s place. The way we can show 10 times smaller is divided by 10. Then, just like up here where we are increasing value, when we decrease value to go from a 9 in the millions place all the way to a 9 in the 10,000s place, it'd be 10 times 10 or divided by 100. If I want to go 3 place values, there's a 9,000, and I wanted to compare a 9 in the millions place to a 9 in the thousands place, it would be another divided by 10, or 10 times 10 times 10, 3 place values is not 100 times smaller, but 1,000 times smaller, because that's 10 times 10 times 10, and each place value is 10 times smaller. 10 times 10 times 10. All right, so something else to remember, just as a side note, dividing by 10 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/10. Okay, so you don't have to put divided by 10 there. You can also put times 1/10 because dividing by 10 is the same as multiplying by a fraction. Let's look at a couple of word problems and use our place value chart to help. Let's look at this number, 23 and 2/100. I know that's 23 and 2/100. Let me show you how. If I put this number in my place value chart, I like to put my decimal first and then build my number around my decimal. It's 23, decimal place says and then it's a 2 in the hundredths place. So 23 and 2/100 because it ends in the hundredths place. And I'm comparing these twos. Let's see how many place values apart it is. 1, 2, 3. So if I'm going backwards, this would be 10. 2 of them is 100. So 3 place values backward is it's going to be 1,000 times smaller or divided by 1,000. If I'm going the other way, it's going to be 1,000 times bigger. So a 2 in the hundredths place is 10, 100, 1,000 times smaller than a 2 in the tens place. A 2 in the tens place is 10, 100, 1,000 times bigger than a 2 in the thousands place. So I'm going to use that to help me answer this problem. The 2 in the blank place is blank times smaller than the 2 in the tens place. Okay, so we're talking about a 2, and we're talking about it being smaller. Well, this is going to be my smaller 2 because it's the furthest one over on the place value chart. So I know that I can find the value, the place value of that 2 looking at my place value chart. It's a 2, and it's in the hundredths place. So the 2 in the hundredths place is how many times smaller? Well, we just talked about that. If I want to look at how small it is, 10, 100, 1,000, I know it's going to be 1,000 times smaller. Than the 2 in the tens place. Let's look at another one, 8 and 99 thousandths. I'll show you how to read that on a place value chart. Put my decimal first, build my number around my decimal. Whoops. Here we go. And then let's read it. 8 and 99 thousandths. I know I say thousandths because the 9 ends in the thousands place. All right, so when we're comparing the 9s, it's just one place value back, or 10 times smaller, one place value forward, or 10 times larger. So I know they're only 10 times difference. So the 9 in the hundredths place, that's this one, is how many times greater? Well, I know because it's one place value over, it's 10 times greater than the 9 in the blank place. Well, what place is that second 9 in? Looking at our place value chart, that second 9 is in the thousandths place. Okay, so use your place value chart to help you go back and forth on the place value chart, see how many spaces each one is apart, and that's going to help you determine if it's 10 times greater, 100 times greater, or 1,000 times greater, or 10 times smaller, 100 times smaller, or 1,000 times smaller. Remember, if you have any questions, try your best, and then come talk to me in the morning.